Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a disturbing nature.
And we're not going to hold back on the graphic details and disturbing content.
So we do not recommend our podcast for children under the age of 13.
And while we respect the victims and their families involved in these tragic cases,
we're also going to be critical of mistakes that are made during the investigations.
And we're going to use dark humor to express ourselves now and then.
So with that said, this podcast may not be for everyone.
And that's okay. We're glad you're here checking us out.
And if you've made it this far, welcome to the Unsung Murder Ballads family. And follow us on Instagram at Unsung Murder Ballads if you want to talk to us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is episode 100.
Yeah, we made it.
Oh my goodness.
We fucking made it. Centennial. Holy shit.
It's a big day for us. I feel like we should have got a trophy for ourselves.
We should have, yes. And I am Janus dead.
I'm Jameson dead.
And I'm Joyous dead.
This is the first time we actually talked over that. That's pretty funny.
Wow, we're really in a mood to yap today.
We have come a long way since
fun episode planned.
Yeah, this is going to be a great episode. And you're right, Jameson. We've come a long way. And we were just discussing before we hit record that our first episode is so drastically different than how we do things now. And you know what? That's okay. And maybe someday we'll re-record those. Who knows? But so tonight, because this is going to come out the day before Halloween, we have some spooky stories for you. And
happy Halloween. Happy Scorpio season. We're getting spooky.
Is it Scorpio season? Yeah, you're right. I guess it is.
It is.
That is creepy.
You're all going to get stung?
When they will hear
is
this,
that what you're saying?
Dear listener, when you hear this, it is Scorpio season.
Yes. And my ex was a Scorpio. And yes, you're right. That's terrifying.
As am I.
Oh, no. Nice. I'm a Gemini, as was my ex-wife, so we're both, it was both happy and not happy at the same time. But that's how Geminis work.
Gemini tracks.
Oh yeah, 110%. I don't even believe
Jameson,
in that
what's
shit.
your sign?
I am a Gemini as well.
Oh, interesting. A Gemini Scorpio podcast is interesting.
You know what? I don't know enough about it, but you're right. A Scorpio sandwich between two Geminis, yeah, that's terrifying.
Exactly. And that's how perfect for our beautiful 100th episode.
Correct.
Halloween spooky times. Let's go.
Well, you're the one taking us off on the first story, so make it happen.
Ooh, okay. I am so ready for this story. I'm really excited to tell this story. I guess my little teaser for this story is I, in general, am not a very, I don't really believe in the paranormal. It's not like something that ever really clicked with my brain.
I can understand
this story that I'm going to tell today is one of the only things that I'm actually maybe this is cursed and haunted and maybe the supernatural, the paranormal is kind of real.
Okay. So it's funny. It's funny because I believe that the human psyche, our minds, if something horrible happens, the energy of it can sort of scar an area and linger. So I truly believe that, at times, if someone's murdered in a horrific way, you might, under the right lighting or quiet, whatever what it is, you can hear or see, snippets of things. So I truly believe that energy can linger. And that's what I believe. I don't necessarily believe in the spiritual on that regard, but I definitely believe that something so horrible can happen that it can, quote unquote, stain an area.
Right. And I'm not so arrogant of a person or as a human being that I'm oh, we understand and can explain everything. There's no way this could be real. I'm who knows?
You're right. Anything could be.
Usually I'm there's no evidence for that, so I'm not going to fuck with it. However, this story is wild.
Okay. I'm excited.
All right. Jumping in to the story of Robert the Doll.
Fucking creepy dolls. Nice.
Oh, God.
Don't you love a creepy doll? A wonderful trope that we enjoy in the genre.
Annabelle,
his name wasn't
Chucky.
Charles.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes, but you're not gonna like Robert either. I'm telling you that right now.
Rock on,
boy.
All right, so he was a one-of-a-kind handmade doll that was created in 1904 by a company called the Steiff Company.
Okay, so he was manufactured. He wasn't handmade by a person. It's not like a voodoo doll.
Yeah, no, not like a homemade. It was handmade, but you can, if you see a picture of it, I'm sure we'll post a picture with this episode. But you'll see that he looks hand stitched, and you can tell that it was handmade.
Okay,
but it was also 1904, so they weren't really mass.
Oh, that's true.
Things.
That's true.
So he was about 40 inches tall, so kind of like a child-sized doll. And he was just like a stuffed cloth doll.
Creepy.
Yeah, and he's pretty creepy looking if you look at him, but he's also an old toy. But he, in general, like if you're thinking about like that era, he
Yeah,
looks like
but
a
those
normal
old
doll.
toys were the creepiest.
And you're correct. He is incredibly creepy. His eyes are hard beads.
Oh,
Um, he has a sailor suit on.
That's in and of itself kind of creepy.
No, truly, truly, you need to see this. It's funny.
Okay. Now I'm afraid
So-
we're going to piss off this doll somehow from like hundreds or thousands or whatever miles away. Oh my God.
I think, and just because me a little bit am spooked out about that, I'm like, you know what? He probably loves being spooky. And so I'm saying something respectful right now.
Okay.
Nothing but respect for how attuned to his purpose that the doll is.
All right.
so what you're saying is we'll get your real opinion after this episode ends.
No, I would never disrespect Robert the doll. I would like to state for the record that I would never disrespect Robert the doll.
Alrighty then.
Okay, so his story, he was given to a young boy named Eugene, called Gene, and there's a bit of a debate surrounding where exactly he came from because he got him when he was a kid, obviously. So one of the theories is that he was gifted from his grandfather after a trip to Germany, but there's another alternate story. Some locals claimed that the toy was given to him by one of the family's young maids who they claim had hexed it in retaliation for some like bad treatment by Jean's parents. The story is that she gave this child this like haunted doll.
So I'm trying to decide what I think is creepier. A haunted doll from Germany or a purposefully haunted doll from a servant?
Right. Both
What
are
would you do if it started yelling at you in German?
Well, regardless, if a doll started yelling at me, it's gone.
yeah, we're spooked either
Yeah.
way.
Exactly.
So Gene was absolutely smitten with this doll and got very attached to it. It was his new best friend. And he was so obsessed with it that he named him Robert, which is his middle name. He was like so tight with his doll, would dress it in his own clothes, and would carry this doll with him everywhere, even though it's like this full, like the same size as him, like full size doll.
So he has no real friends then, because other kids at that era would have been bullying the hell out of him for that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. And he is
Interesting.
tight with his doll.
Yeah, exactly. That's creepy.
Yeah. And it's like referred to them as like best friends. And like they had this friendship
It-
like
it-
that lasts their whole lives.
It's giving like Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin's vibe, kinda, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very much that vibe.
On a much more demented level, though.
yeah. Well, not yet, at least.
Yeah, truly. So interviews with his family indicate that he had a lot of emotional energy placed on this doll and was very, very focused on it throughout his life in like a very abnormal sort of way.
Okay, but again, I think that goes back to what I was saying about energy.
Right, about being
Yeah.
a lonely kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not long after this, the doll started to be involved in some very strange and terrifying events in their home.
Just that statement alone is terrifying.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. The first incident was one night, Gene, who was about 10 years old, woke up to find Robert the doll just sitting at the end of his bed staring at him.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Like right out of Poltergeist. Yep. No thanks.
Oh,
Oh
you
my
love it already. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so he wakes up, sees this doll sitting there. He did not put the doll there. And then moments later, his mother was awakened by his screams for help and the sounds of furniture all being overturned in his bedroom.
Oh. Okay.
What?
So Eugene cries for help and begs his mother to rescue him. And when she's finally able to get into his room, because
There's
the door
nothing
was
there.
locked,
Oh man.
she sees Gene curled up in fear on his bed. The whole room is in shambles, and Robert the doll is still sitting at the foot of the bed.
So I thought these were like best friends. Is this guy like bullying him into being his best friend?
You know what? Maybe Eugene was being a bad friend. We don't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
It was never Robert's fault, and we know that.
Yes. We can't upset Robert, right?
I would never. So obviously there's no like rational explanation for a doll throwing out everything on this bedroom, but it's still weird. And the only other explanation would be like that this child had like a night terror and flipped everything over in its room and then acted scared about it. But this
Right.
wasn't the only time that something like this happened.
Oh man.
So his parents would often hear their son talking to the doll and then getting a response back in a completely different voice.
Okay.
Wow. Now, I mean, so they're saying it's not him making up another voice. They're hearing like a separate second voice.
That's what they think they're hearing. Yep.
Okay. Jesus.
They also reported seeing the doll speak and witnessing the expression of the doll change.
What? Ooh.
Wow.
Which, yeah, I'm like, oh, it's not just the kid reporting this. Like, there's just some things here that are really hard to explain.
Yeah.
That's totally not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be like a boy cried wolf kind of thing where he cries for help and then the doll's back in place or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So they would also see Robert like giggling and running up the steps or staring out of the upstairs window.
Wow. Holy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So then once there was a plumber who had been hired to make repairs around the house. He claimed to hear children's laughter, even though no one was home at the time.
Yeah,
I would
I'm
run
out.
so fast.
Yep. You don't have enough money to pay me to fix your pipes. I'm leaving. Yep.
For real. And so with this plumber, he looks around the room and he notices that this doll had moved from one side of the window to the other, seemingly on his own.
Nope. I'm out.
Is the plumber still alive?
Well, no, this was like 1900s.
Probably, yeah, 1920, probably not.
Well, not now, but I mean, like, after he leaves the house, like, does he make it out of the house alive?
Yeah, because we have this interview with him, right? Like, so we know.
Right.
He also noticed, like, he swore up and down that there were objects that had been in Robert's lap, and they ended up on the other side of the room as if they had been thrown.
I'm telling you, I don't know what I would do in that situation except just get out.
Just get out. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like, it's wild. It's just like a lot of things, man, that like, how would this plumber, this random plumber, have he been known to be weary of this doll?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unless the whole thing is the biggest hoax of the 1920s, which I doubt.
For real.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So skipping ahead in time a little bit, eventually the young boy grows up and moves away and studies at the Academy of Fine Arts in Chicago and the Art Students League in New York. He went to the Parisian Sorbonne where he met his wife, Anne.
Oh, so he gets married. Okay, good.
Yeah, he gets married. Throughout his life, Robert lives with him this whole time. And then after Jean's parents died, he moved back into his childhood home with his wife.
With the doll.
With the doll. The doll stays with him the whole time.
Why would you do that?
It sounds to me like the doll was holding him hostage.
Yeah, it really does seem like that. Astutely observed. So Jean decides that the doll needs a room of his own and ends up placing him in the upstairs room that has a window overlooking the street.
This is so bizarre.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his wife obviously feels very uneasy with this doll in the house. So she couldn't really put her finger on why, but she felt like she wanted Jean to lock the doll up in the attic where he, would at least couldn't do any harm.
That does not sound like a good idea for this kind of doll.
And you would be right about that, yeah. But Jean let it happen, and he conceded. And as you can probably imagine, Robert the doll was not happy with his new accommodations.
Oh, man. This is going to go poorly.
Mm-hmm. So soon, visitors to the home heard footsteps in the attic, the sound of someone pacing back and forth, and devilish giggling around the house.
I love that the term is devilish giggling. That's terrifying.
Yeah, don't you love that?
Yeah. No, I'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah, for real. Neighborhood children also reported seeing Robert watching them from the window in the upstairs bedroom, even though, mind you, he's locked in the attic.
He's still moving about.
Yeah.
Nope.
And the kids told accounts of the doll actually mocking them as they went to school.
Yeah, I'm picking a picture of this doll flipping them off as they go by.
Yeah, I know. Respect, Robert. Yeah, so hearing this, Gene obviously goes to investigate. He knew that he locked Robert in the attic and there was no way that he could be in the upstairs bedroom. But to his shock, when he opened the door to the bedroom, there was Robert sitting in the rocking chair by the window.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything out of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, so he continued. He put the doll back up in the attic, locked it up there. And this happened several times. And each time he would discover him again sitting by the window in the same upstairs bedroom.
For scientific purposes, I would lock it up in a box, like literally lock it with a padlock kind of thing, just to see if it got out.
Yeah.
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 I'm sure.
That's essentially what they're doing. And this is our scientific purpose.
Yes, I know.
Terrifying.
But still, it's terrifying.
I would burn the house down.
Yeah, that's what I would be inclined to do too.
Or the
but also,
doll.
it still doesn't feel like a good idea. I've seen enough horror movies. You can't burn the house down. The spirit's going to follow you to the next house.
I was going to say, yeah. And then maybe if you burn the doll, it still follows you. It just transfers to another item or something.
Exactly. Like I've seen this.
Yeah, too many horror movies. Yep.
Too many horror movies. I think I finally remembered where I first heard this story it's in like a horror movies that are like investigating paranormal. I forget what it's called. It takes place in like this house, but they go to a museum with all of these haunted objects, and Robert the doll is one of the objects there.
I don't know that one. I'll have to do some research.
I'll try to remember what the movie's called. It's like very, very famous, and it's about like these like it's this blonde woman with a bob. I think it's early 2000s movie, maybe 90s even, and she's like a paranormal investigator. I'll think of it eventually. Yeah. Or listener, if you know, please comment. Tell me what movie I'm thinking of.
Yeah, let us know.
It's driving me crazy. So eventually, Gene passes away in 1974, and Robert the doll locked in the attic. Eventually, a new owner moves into the house, and their 10-year-old daughter was delighted to find Robert the doll in the attic.
I'm sure she was. At first.
Exactly. Her delight soon ended when she started claiming that Robert was alive and that the doll wanted to hurt her.
Terrifying.
Even terrifying worse for your child to tell you.
Exactly. Even worse for a little kid to experience it.
Yeah. She often awoke in the middle of the night screaming in fear and told her parents that Robert had moved about in the room.
Why would they keep the doll after that?
It's weird. Well, we clearly know you can't lock away the doll. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah, but I'd drive it to another town. Is all I'm saying. Maybe it's like the movie.
It would still show up right back in that chair.
Maybe it's like the movie Thinner, where like that guy gets like a curse and he has to pass it on to someone else. So maybe just by gifting the doll to somebody else, you can get rid of it.
Right. And one of the interesting things that I found in my research was like one of the stories that I told at the beginning of like where this doll came from the servant of Gene's parents.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, that theory basically like, oh, she cursed the doll with like voodoo and black magic, and that's why it's like this. But then it's like, why are people after their deaths still having terrifying experiences with the doll? Because these people, like, the doll's like, it's clearly not just haunting this family because this family's all gone.
Right. Yeah, who knows? Or maybe that servant put like the vengeful soul of someone else in there. Who knows? Yeah.
So a different woman named Myrtle Reuter purchased the home in 1974.
Okay.
She then became Robert's companion and kept him when she moved to a different place 6 years later.
Interesting. So the first family with the little girl, they didn't last very long in that house, and they left the doll behind.
No, they were like, I'm fucking out of here.
Smart. Very smart.
Which is the right thing to do. And I'm also glad that the spirit didn't follow them or anything. But
right.
It's weird. In 1994, she donated Robert to a museum, and she told them that he moved around in her house on his own and that he was haunted.
Okay. Like a museum? Like obviously not like a museum of art, but...
No. I didn't look up the museum itself, but I'm pretty sure it's like a paranormal museum type thing.
Okay, cool. We should
Museum
go.
of Misfit Toys.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is the thing that they show in this movie. I need to do some research. I'll comment on this post after we post it. I'll be I'll let you know what I've discovered. So a few months later, after she donates him, she passes away. And the museum did accept the doll and all of its baggage. They just assumed that her claims were nonsense.
Yeah, I would
And they're just
assume
like,
the same. Yeah.
right, it's just like, oh, this cute, like curio, whatever, object. However, almost immediately, museum employees started reporting their own inexplicable happenings with this doll.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, the staff said they noticed a shift in energy at the museum after he arrived.
It's so hard to believe, and yet at the same time, like you said, it's hard to rebuke, like to just
Yeah, it's just
dismiss
so
it.
much. Yeah, it's so crazy.
Man, I want to go to this museum now.
Honestly,
sure?
I do too. We need to figure out where it
Yeah.
is. Well, as long as we'll get there. We'll get
Yeah,
there.
we'll get there.
So he wasn't immediately put on display. They kind of had him in their collection, but he started receiving visitors as word spread about this doll being here.
That's awesome. Again,
Ye-
just like we just said, I kind of
Exactly.
want to go.
Yeah. And then once they did put him in the exhibit, cameras and electronic devices started malfunctioning in his presence. And like knowing the year this is like the 90s when people are starting to have electronics. They never would have really been around this doll before then.
Right. Which again, like, that fits the horror movie mode for stuff like this too.
Exactly. And soon letters started arriving to the museum from people who had visited, offering apologies for disrespectful behavior or asking for Robert's forgiveness.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man, so now I understand your hesitancy to be like to say anything bad.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. So since then, and this is a number from a while ago, so it might be even higher now, but he's received over 1,000 letters. But that's not the only thing that he receives. He also has received, and visitors will actively leave things when they visit. They'll leave candy, money, sometimes joints
Oh, okay.
for the doll. They're like just like leaving offerings to not displease the doll.
I'm just picturing like the staff of this museum coming in like, do you smell weed? I smell weed.
Yeah, and it's like you just see Robert in his little case smoking a joint.
That'd be awesome.
Probably be good for him.
Yeah, maybe. Unless he's like he's one of those people that just reacts poorly to it.
Right. Yeah, and these letters they continue to arrive throughout time.
That's fantastic. So
It is.
I looked it up. He is on display at East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida.
Oh man, I don't want to go to Florida.
Well, it's Key
Road
West
trip.
too, so it's not even like it's in Central Florida or like Miami. We have to go to the Keys. So,
Right. Probably better that I don't visit and inadvertently disrespect him.
yeah, maybe. Although I think I would be more likely to disrespect him than you.
No, yeah, and that's why I would never go with you.
Fair.
So this is a very famous case, obviously. There have been ghost hunters, TV shows, psychics, and skeptics and believers, all among them, visit him on a regular basis to witness all the strange stories they have heard.
That makes sense. Again, because we're now our interest is peaked as well. So I can see this being on a lot of TV shows and movies.
Right. So yeah, like you just said, you can meet him at this museum. Visitors are welcome to view him, and he's in a special case at the museum. People are encouraged to try and get a photo, but most who have tried have been unsuccessful.
Interesting. And I wonder if the staff ever finds him outside that case.
I don't remember hearing anything about that, but I don't know. We never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, or maybe he's content in the case now. Maybe
Right.
maybe he gets the attention he always wanted before.
Right, he gets all the validation, he gets all of the like respect and offerings and whatever it is that this spirit wanted.
Yeah.
He has it now.
Interesting.
Yeah, in other pop culture, there was also a movie that was released in 2015 called Robert, which loosely follows the origin story of Robert the Doll. Rotten Tomatoes says it's not a very good movie.
Most of them aren't when they try to do something like that.
Right. But yeah, that's the story of Robert the Doll.
Awesome. Fucking creepy.
Creepy as
Terrifying.
Oh my goodness.
Right, there's just so many things. It's just so many things that are really hard to explain, and it would be really hard for all these people to separately be making this up. And
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, like
I
it's
don't know.
one thing if his family were making it up and then they coerced like the plumber, But
Right, or like they
now,
told this like little girl before they moved out, like, oh, it'll be
right. But yeah, after that, it's a little much. Yeah, so it's hard to
weird.
dispute, but like if the rational mind doesn't want to buy it, yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Which
And
terrifies me.
yeah, agreed. And as much as I want to go see the doll, I'm like, yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. I have enough bad shit happen in my life.
Right. You don't need any. I'm just actually maybe you should visit the doll and make an offering and maybe God would smile on you a little bit more.
Maybe. I'll leave it at that. All right, Jameson, you are up next. What you got for us?
All right. Well, unfortunately, I don't have much of a teaser,
It's okay.
but we can
These are
dive.
3 short stories. We don't necessarily
We
need
can
the
dive
teaser.
right in.
All right.
This is the case of Teresita Basa.
Okay.
Unfortunately, unsolved crimes are common. A murderer may not reveal their motive, or a body may never be discovered.
You and the unsolved cases, man.
Ugh.
Just stick with me, okay?
All right.
But in the intriguing case of Teresita Basa, the strangeness surrounds not who committed the crime, but how the investigators solved the case.
Okay. I take back what I said about you and unsolved cases.
For now, at least, right?
For now.
As a result, this is known as one of the most shocking murder cases in Chicago's history.
Oh.
Interesting.
Just wait. You're in for a ride, man.
Hell yeah.
Teresita Basa was born in the Philippines in 1929 and lived a very privileged life. She was the sole child of a very successful lawyer and his wife. After graduating from Assumption College in Manila, Teresita came to the U.S., where she received a master's degree in music from Indiana University and then went on to study inhalation therapy.
Okay.
Eventually, Teresita settled down in Chicago, where she became a respiratory therapist at Edgewater Hospital. She was known to be a very reserved and polite woman who was very dedicated to her job and took pride in providing the best care to her patients. She spent what little free time she had giving piano lessons and ended up starting to write her own book.
Wow. That's someone who really
so
knows.
Very, very motivated and very, very driven.
Yeah, like she's that's a busy job, and she's got quite the like complicated free time tasks, hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
She was not a drinker, and she lived a very quiet and routine life. While she had been in the U.S. for a while, she did have a heavy Spanish accent.
Okay.
At around 7:30 p.m. on February 21st, 1977, Ruth Loeb, a friend from the hospital, called Teresita. The two talked for almost half an hour, and Teresita said that she had a male friend coming over, but she did not identify him.
Okay. That's probably a bad move.
Yep.
Almost an hour later, two of Teresita's neighbors smelled smoke. They informed the janitor, who alerted the other residents and then called the fire department. On that crisp, cold evening, the shrill sound of the fire engines could be heard speeding towards the apartments on the block of North Pine Grove Avenue. As they extinguished the fire in apartment 15B, they were horrified to find a nude body with multiple stab wounds hidden under a smoldering mattress.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I'm wondering if she pulled herself under there in an attempt to save herself, maybe?
Oh, maybe.
Wow.
As if that wasn't bad enough, they discovered that the body had a butcher knife embedded in the chest.
Wow.
Oh.
This body was soon identified as the body of Teresita Basa.
Wow.
To all appearances, it was a rape murder, with Teresita's clothing folded beside her nude body.
Ooh, folded.
Which I thought
That's
was
weird.
really creepy and very, like, sterile, kind of.
Right.
Yes, I agree. That's
it's almost like, did she think she was like, maybe she was planning to have consensual sex, got undressed and like folded her clothes neatly, and then all hell broke loose for some reason? Or what you guys are saying, this dude is so fucked up that he folded her clothes during or after.
So, a medical examination, however, determined that Teresita had not been raped.
Oh, okay.
So,
Even weirder.
yeah, the body of Teresita was flown back to the Negros Islands in the Philippines for burial. So, she was able to go back home, which I thought was good.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I always wonder, like, if someone has immigrated to another area, if they, when they pass, where they would like to be buried. That's always something I thought about.
During the investigation, police determined that she had no enemies and there wasn't a motive for the killing. Detective Joseph Statula and his partner Lee R. Eblin were assigned to the case. Over the forthcoming weeks, they interviewed friends and acquaintances to determine what kind of person Teresita was. In the burnt apartment, they found a mysterious note written by Teresita, which read, "Get tickets for AS."
Okay.
They were never able to find out who AS was, and the case came to a standstill.
And I'm assuming they must have interviewed the friend who told them a guy friend was coming over. So the assumption would be AS is that guy friend.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what my thought was, but nothing was ever discovered. Nothing came to light out of it.
Okay.
In August, police in Evanston contacted Detective Statula and asked him about a man named Alan Showery, who was a technician at the Edgewater Hospital.
Okay, so AS, good.
Evanston police referred Detective Statula to Juan Chuao, and it was here that the case took a peculiar turn. Dr. Juan Chuao, a surgical assistant at the Franklin Boulevard Community Hospital, according to him, his wife, Remy, was possessed by Teresita Basa.
The murder victim.
Correct.
Interesting.
Okay.
He explained to the stunned officers that his wife had sporadically gone into a comatose state and spoke in the voice of another woman.
Weird.
Imagine how creepy that would be.
Can you imagine?
No, yeah. Oh, I'm imagining it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know that I'd be able to call the police and say that.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anyone to ever believe me.
Exactly. So it must be that terrifying to him.
Yeah, for real.
Remy, who did not have an accent, began speaking in a heavy Spanish accent while in the trance.
Fucking weird.
Remy went into a trance 3 times over the summer.
Okay. Do we know if Remy knew Teresita?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
All right.
At one point during the trances, Mrs. Chuao blurted out, "I am Teresita Basa. Doctor, I would like to ask you for your help. The man who murdered me is still at large." Mrs. Chuao would then snap out of the trance after saying all of that.
I don't know what
Huh.
I would do. That's so fucking weird. I mean, I guess
Right.
it's good that he contacted the police instead of just having her committed.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
He actually cares about his wife.
Fuck.
During her third possession, while speaking in Tagalog, which is the Philippines language.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. So we're getting real intense now.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Chuao claimed that she had been stabbed to death by Alan Showery.
Whoa.
Holy shit.
Alan Showery
Whoa.
was 32 and worked at the same hospital as the 2 women.
Okay, so Remy worked at the same hospital as.
So all 3 of them worked at the same hospital.
Okay.
Showery worked at the
Mhm.
same hospital as
Teresita and Remy. Okay.
Interesting.
Fuck.
Dr. Chow said he asked the voice why she admitted Showery to her home, to which she replied he was, quote unquote, a friend.
Clearly not a very good one.
Right, exactly. When Mrs. Chow snapped out of her trance, an hour later, she had no recollection of what she had said to her husband. Had no idea.
Wow. Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah.
It's all interesting because it's like they knew each other. So part of what I'm thinking here is I'm like me trying to find a rational explanation. I'm like thinking of like dissociative identity disorder, which is what was used to be called multiple personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Which, sometimes you have, like, because of a traumatic event in your life, your brain does this thing where it, like, you dissociate and you take on a different identity and you don't remember it. Like, things will happen and you won't remember them, and they'll be like a completely different identity, completely different person.
But that would
But it's the speaking Tagalog that's crazy to me.
right, and I was going to say it also means that she must have thought this guy killed her for some reason. Like maybe she witnessed something.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, yeah, she maybe was thinking of this, and she, like, maybe they talked to her a lot, but I don't know. Okay.
But
Anyway,
the language, yeah, I agree. The language is the really hard to dispute part.
yeah.
I thought it was impressive and creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Initially, the doctor and his wife were apprehensive about contacting police as they had fear of appearing foolish.
Yeah.
True. And, like, being discredited, especially as a doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
However, 5 months after Teresita's murder, when the voice returned several times, they officially contacted police. They were scared. They couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Police initially were not convinced. While Mrs. Chuao and Teresita met during an orientation at the hospital, the two worked different shifts.
Hmm.
So they weren't close.
So they met briefly, but they didn't, they weren't on the same shift together. They weren't, buddy.
Right. So
all
there's
the
no, like,
time.
she would have learned some, like, little bit of language from her. Like, no, there's no reason
Right,
that would have
no.
happened.
Oh yeah, good point. I didn't even think of that.
So after getting Showery's address, the detectives went to his apartment on August 11th. Showery confessed he knew he knew Teresita, but denied ever being in her apartment.
I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
as you would, right?
Right.
But as we know how lovely, intelligent criminals and suspects are, they love doing this. And shortly after, he changed his story
Of course he did.
Ha ha ha.
and claimed that he had gone to Teresita's apartment to fix her TV and left immediately after.
Can we talk about a murder fumble?
Right? A murder fumble that was picked up by a ghost.
Right? Yeah. While at Showery's apartment, the detectives noticed Showery's common law wife wearing a ring which could be identified as being Teresita's.
Idiots.
Okay, I'm gonna give the cops, like, a big old point there. I hate to do this, but they noticed a ring.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I'm sorry, a man noticed a ring on someone's finger? I can't believe that. Not for a second.
That's awesome.
They soon discovered other pieces of jewelry that would be identified as belonging to Teresita and her family. Police arrested Showery on August 11th, 1977, and detectives later said that he admitted to the murder.
Would you look at that?
Yeah.
In his confession, he declared that he had gone to Teresita's apartment to rob her so he could pay his rent.
What a douchebag.
Just
real,
a little
dude.
bit.
And also an idiot. You're gonna rob your coworker?
Yeah, which means he had to have known he was either going to kill her or he thought he was going to be able to intimidate her into silence. That's so weird.
What a weird dumbass.
Yeah.
Well, even more of a dumbass. Guess how much he got out of that?
$12.
A little bit more, but not much. He got $30 and a handful of jewelry.
Fucking idiot.
Yep, all that for that.
Which he didn't even sell because it's still in his apartment.
Right. What a ding dong. You should have pawned it.
Idiots. I mean, we love a stupid criminal, but really.
We do.
Absolutely insane. During his trial, which was dubbed the Voice from the Grave trial.
Ooh.
Appropriate.
Yep. I mean, they all got to give him cute names, right? Showery would claim that his confession, he was just kidding when he made it.
Kidding. Not even
Yep,
coerced.
he was just kidding. Like,
Amazing.
Yeah.
no big deal. I was
That's
just
like
kidding.
when you catch your boyfriend sexting with another girl, and he's like, "Oh my god, we were literally just joking, girl. Like, why are you overreacting? We were just joking."
We didn't really mean it.
No. We were like, no. When I said that she was like a 10 out of 10, and I would, like, love to hang out with her, I was joking, obviously.
Yeah.
Prosecutor Thomas Organ roared, quote, "Well, Alan Showery, you weren't kidding when you plunged the knife into Teresita Basa's chest."
Work.
Yep.
Yep, getting right in his face about it, which is good.
Yeah, fuck him.
Showery's defense lawyers suggested that Miss Chow had faked the trances because she had gotten fired from the hospital.
So, wait. So they're saying that she got fired, so she decided to fake trances and try to frame another guy for a murder? That doesn't
Yeah,
make
that's
Maybe,
what
maybe they were trying to claim that like he got her fired or something.
No, they're saying that she faked the trances because she got fired. That's the defense's case.
Oh, she's just like being dramatic. That's weird.
Yep.
That's an
weird.
interesting theory they had there.
Yeah, that's a little harder to believe.
Well, apparently a good amount of people believed it, but not enough because the first trial was declared a mistrial when the jury met a deadlock.
Well, I can see that because that's a hard sell.
Yeah, but that means somebody believed some part of the defense and or enough speculation that
Right.
they weren't able to make a I don't know. It's
Right.
just
But my point is and I'm sure the next one will probably go this way. The prosecution needs to focus on the evidence, not what led them to the evidence.
Right. Like
Correct.
if anything, they shouldn't be talking at all about how they figured this out.
Right.
a new hearing was scheduled for February of 1979. Now, there were many whispers that the spirit of Teresita visited Showery in his jail cell.
Of course.
Slay.
More likely, however,
I hope she
is
did.
The defense lawyers probably suggested to him that he, change his plea to receive a more lenient sentence.
Ooh, the insanity plea.
And receive a lenient sentence he would.
Oh, no.
Showery was sentenced to 14 years in prison for the murder and
Wow.
a concurrent term of 4 to 12 years on the armed robbery and arson charges.
Okay. So
I don't give a fuck about a concurrent.
Yeah,
fucking...
concurrent means shit.
But none of that's going to mean shit anyway, because Showery was paroled in July of 1983 after serving under 5 years.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Wow. Okay.
That's bullshit.
Her soul is probably still not at rest.
No, I wouldn't be if I were her. No way.
Wow.
Detective Stachula was quoted as saying, "To this day, I'm not sure whether I believe how the information was obtained. Nonetheless, everything is completely true."
Wow.
Now, whether or not one believes the claims of Miss Chuao as being possessed, everything and all the clues led to the conviction of the killer.
Which is impressive.
It wrapped it up, even though you may not believe how it happened, it still happened.
So
right,
basically,
however they figured it out, like however
right,
that happened.
Whether it was a ghost or this woman was like a psychic, you know what I mean? Which I also don't really believe in, but like it's impressive as fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking bizarre and perfect for Halloween.
Most certainly. To this day, the murder and the ensuing mystery make this one of the most bizarre murder cases in Chicago history.
Very interesting.
I was going to say, I'd argue world history.
And that is the case of Teresita Basa.
Nice.
Damn.
That's fucked up. I love it. So my case, the final case, is the most famous of the three we're doing. I guarantee you, Jameson, you've heard of at least part of this. And Joyous, you may have seen a movie about this. So
that's the only way I ever know.
But we'll see what you know as we get there, because the teaser isn't very long, and it'll be revealed very quickly. But I guarantee you, our listeners have heard of the teaser portion of it, and most of them, if they're horror movie fans, have heard the entire story.
Oh, I'm excited.
So let's dive right in. George Lutz and his wife Kathy and their 3 children moved into their Long Island, New York home in December of 1975. They abruptly left without their belongings just 28 days later. The Lutzes.
Oh my god, is this my favorite movie, 28 Days Later?
No, but that'd be really funny.
Just kidding.
And it was funny. I thought you were going to make a joke about the Sandra Bullock movie, 28 Days, because where she went to rehab. That's where I thought
Oh,
you
never
were going
seen
with
that one, but you did show me 28 Days Later.
Oh, that was such a great zombie movie. Love it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
So the Lutzes, who paid $80,000 for the property, insisted that there were evil spirits haunting their 3-story home.
Damn.
They reported bizarre and disturbing incidences, including slime oozing from the walls and objects moving on their own.
Ooh.
George Lutz stated that there were odors in the house that came and went, and there were sounds. The front door would slam in the middle of the night, and that he couldn't get warm in the house for many days.
Okay, the slamming of the door would scare the shit out of me.
Yes, oh yeah. I mean, any of it. I mean, the smells, like if you have a neighbor, but this is a single home. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
I mean, the smells, I'm like, there's probably a rat got stuck in the wall and is decomposing.
but if it's coming and going, that's the other thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
So a priest who was called in to bless the house said a hand slapped him and a voice commanded him to get out.
Damn.
Wow.
So the Lutzes immortalized their time in this house with the help of an author named J. Anson. The resulting book, which was titled The Amityville Horror, was published in 1977, and it went on to become a cult classic movie of the same title 2 years later.
Yes, it did.
Oh, I feel like I must have seen this one, but I don't remember what the story is exactly because there's a lot of stories of
Haunted houses, yeah. The original film starred James Brolin and Margot Kidder, who is known as Lois Lane in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. But this movie was also remade in 2005 with Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George. So that would be the one I would guess you might have seen.
Yeah, probably.
So tonight, however, we're not covering the haunting of the Lutz family and what they supposedly went through because, yes, there's a lot of speculation and evidence to support that they may have made up that story.
Oh.
Tonight, we're going to discuss the real-life murders that did take place in that house 1 year before the Lutzes bought it.
Oh, shit.
Yes. And this case, which is the case of Ronald Defeo Jr., this is the story that's the basis for the sequel to the original Amityville horror film, Amityville 2. And there's actually been other films that have come out that's covered this story. But this is the actual real murder that took place in that house.
Damn.
Which, again, lends credit to the Lutzes actually having been haunted.
Yeah, but also lends credit to that, like, they heard about this story and then they thought they were haunted.
Well, and it's funny. We'll kind of skip ahead here a little bit, but there's a lot of speculation that they couldn't really afford the house after they bought it, and then this was part of their plan to get money back for it by making up this haunted story and selling it. So,
like selling it as to weird people who want that shit.
Well, when they made millions off this book.
Oh.
Yes.
Smart.
So
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of speculation comes from. But this is in fact the real life story. So here we go. Ronald Joseph Defeo Jr. was born on September 6, 1951, the oldest of 5 children to Ronald Defeo Sr. and Louise Defeo. The family led a comfortable, upper-middle-class lifestyle on Long Island, thanks in part to Ronald Sr.'s job at his father-in-law's car dealership. However, Ronald Sr. was hot-headed and domineering and sometimes violent towards his family. Especially Ronald Jr., who was nicknamed Butch. Now, I don't normally use nicknames on the first names of killers in this story, but because we have Ronald Sr. and Ronald Jr., I'll just often call him Butch here and there. So
That works for me.
I also don't like the name Butch. That's a shitty name.
No, it's also like you're saying Butch and I'm a lesbian, so that's what I'm thinking about.
Right, and that's what I mean. That's sort of been commandeered for that. Like when someone just says the word butch, I immediately think of the stereotypical insult for a lesbian. Yeah.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
It's also been reclaimed. It's not
I can
it's not
see
like
that.
a slur. I mean, I wouldn't give you free use to go around calling people butches, but it is like an identity that a lot of people identify as butch lesbians.
Fair enough. So Ronald Sr. had high expectations for his eldest son, and made his anger and disappointment known whenever Butch failed to live up to them. If life at home was rough for him, it was only worse when he started school.
Ugh, yeah, it's not good when you start off feeling unloved at home.
Right. Now, as a child, he was overweight and shy, and the other kids frequently tormented him because of that. Now, granted, this is the 60s. I don't know that it's much better today, but it's probably a lot worse back then.
Mm-hmm.
By his teen years, Butch started lashing out, both against his abusive father and his classmates. In an attempt to help their deeply troubled son, Ronald Sr. and Louise took him to see a psychiatrist. Butch, however, insisted that he didn't need any help and refused to attend his appointments. Hoping to convince him to improve his behavior in another way, the Defeos started providing Butch with expensive gifts, but this too failed to correct his course in life. By 17, Butch was regularly using LSD and heroin.
What an interesting combination.
Right? And spending most of his allowance on drugs and alcohol. So he eventually got kicked out of school due to violence towards other students, and at this point the Defeos didn't know what else to do. They were looking at it in the sense that punishing Butch wasn't working, and he refused to go get help. So Ronald Sr. kind of got it into his head, maybe he needs a job. So he got him a job at the dealership, giving him a weekly stipend regardless of how poorly Butch was performing his job duties.
No, that's got to be nice.
Well, I mean, as anyone can see coming, once he actually had more money, he went and bought more drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Shock.
But he also started buying guns.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
So despite having a steady job and enough money and freedom to do what he wanted, Butch, his situation only worsened.
That makes sense.
He established a reputation in the area for getting drunk and starting fights. And on one occasion, he even attempted to attack his father with a shotgun while his parents were arguing.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's a part of me that's like, okay, if he's defending his mother and it's stopping a violent abuser, good. But we know where this is going to go. In 1974, in an interview with the New York Times, Butch's friend Jackie Hales said that he was part of a crowd who, quote, would drink and then get into fights, but the next day they would apologize. So he's an abuser.
Yep.
Not long before the murders, Hales said that Defeo had broken a pool cue in half simply because he was angry. So again, violent displays.
Certainly, I mean, if he owns
That's
guns,
awful.
I'm not surprised he's breaking pool cues.
We're just lucky he didn't use the broken pool cue on somebody else.
Oh, I watched the episode of True Blood the other day where they did that.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
And burst a vampire.
I love the way the vampires died in that show. That was so good.
So good. It's
Yeah.
so good. I'm doing my spooky season rewatch of True Blood.
I stopped watching around season 4 or 5. I
Oh
lost
yeah, because
interest.
it gets ridiculous.
Yeah, I lost interest around then. I was like, I mean, the fairy community was one thing, but then once like Lilith got involved, I was like,
Yeah, they jumped the shark so many times. It was so deeply dumb, but I love it.
yeah, I might have to rewatch it. Not sorry,
Even like
sorry,
the first couple
listeners.
seasons, they're fun.
Sorry, listeners, but I actually just started watching The Great, which is about Catherine the Great.
Yes,
That was
so
so
good.
good. And
I loved it.
I know it's not 100% accurate or even 50% accurate, but it's so good.
It's so good.
Okay. Anyway, back into this. Still, most people knew the Defeo family and considered them to be nice and normal people. They were outwardly kind and religious, holding a prayer huddle on Sunday mornings, as one family friend recalled.
They're really trying. They're asking God for help.
Right? In 1973, the Defeos installed a statue of St. Joseph, the patron saint of family and fathers, holding baby Jesus on their front lawn. Around this same time, Butch started handing out statuettes of the same saint to his co-workers and telling them that nothing can happen to you as long as you have this. Creepy as fuck.
That's a weird thing to do.
Yeah, that's a little creepy, right? Then, in October of 1974, Butch was entrusted by the family's dealership with depositing approximately $20,000 in cash to the bank.
I'm guessing it never makes it to the bank.
I don't know what possesses anyone to trust someone who's using heroin and LSD and is generally not responsible with 20 grand.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea. Butch, ever unsatisfied with life, felt that he wasn't earning enough in wages and devised a plan with a friend to stage a fake robbery and steal the money for themselves. This plan soon fell apart when the police arrived at the dealership to question him. He initially refused to cooperate with the authorities, and Ronald Sr. then interrogated his own son about his potential involvement in the robbery. This conversation ended with Butch threatening to kill his father.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
Well, I mean, the guy's violent and he's been caught in a crime. So he's going to lash out and do whatever. It's like at that point, survival mode kicks in. In the early hours of November 13th, 1974, Ronald Defeo Jr. stalked through his family home with a .35 caliber Marlin rifle.
Oh.
The first room he entered was his parents' room, and he fatally shot them both.
Oh.
He then entered his 4 siblings' rooms and murdered his sisters and brothers.
Oh my God, everyone.
Everyone.
Yep.
There was 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John Matthew.
Oh.
The children had all been killed with a single shot, while the parents had both received 2 shots. Physical evidence suggests that Louise Defeo and her daughter Allison were both awake at the time of their deaths.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, gunshots through the house.
Right. Well, we're going to get into that a little bit too, a bit later. But according to Suffolk County Police, all the victims were found lying face down in their beds. So we're gonna touch on this a little bit because there's a lot of speculation as to what really happened, because to be lying face down kind of implies you didn't hear these gunshots that were happening a couple rooms away. And the fact
Who falls asleep like that?
I don't know, but like there's also the fact that he kills all of them in that same position. But I guess you're implying that you're saying he positioned them that way?
Flipped them over, yeah.
Okay, fair. But that's one of the speculations that something else might have been going on, is the fact that no one seemed to have roused from this,
Yeah, no, it's weird.
So the 6 victims were later buried in St. Charles Cemetery nearby in Farmingdale. Afterwards, Butch took a shower, hid his bloody clothing and the gun in a pillowcase, and he left for work, ditching the evidence in a storm drain along the way. That day, he made several calls to the family's home, pretending to be surprised that his father didn't come into work that day. By the afternoon, he left to hang out with friends, still calling home and obviously receiving no answer. So he told his friends he was going to go check on his family in the early evening hours, and he went home and claimed to have found the family murdered. He then runs to a local bar in hysterics, screaming that his father, mother, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters had all been murdered. So a group of his friends accompany him back to the house, where they are greeted by this gruesome sight of the murdered family.
Oh my God.
Like,
kind of crazy that they would go back to this house with him.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would believe it. I think I would have gone as well. Like, if my best friends were like, hey, this happened, I think I would at least go back and help, I don't know, document it or something, like give a statement.
Yeah, I guess.
So over the course of the ensuing investigation, Defeo, Butch, spun several tales about what might have happened the day of the Amityville murders.
Never the consistent story.
Never. At first, he tried to blame a mob hitman named Louis Fellini, but police quickly learned that Fellini was out of town at the time and couldn't have done it.
Yeah, it's weird to call out a specific person.
Yeah, well, I mean, he must have lived nearby, and everyone must have known he was a mafia guy, but ballsy to accuse a mafia guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no kidding. Imagine if he heard about it.
Exactly. Then, the next day, Butch confessed. But he would later, but he would later claim that he was hearing voices in his head that pushed him to kill his family. The police investigation concluded that the rifle had not been fitted with any kind of suppressor or silencer and found no evidence that sedatives had been administered to the family. And this is an important piece because, again, a lot of people speculate that there might have been supernatural dealings because the family didn't wake up. It's like, only 2 of them were awake, according to evidence. So.
Yeah, that's weird.
So Defeo's trial began on October 14th, 1975. He and his defense lawyer, William Weber, mounted an affirmative defense of insanity, with Defeo claiming that he had no memory of killing his family. So this
Jameson, do you love it?
I just sitting here enjoying every second of it.
I was like, you're a little quiet for an insanity plea.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and
fair.
Yeah.
Well, the insanity plea was supported by the psychiatrist for the defense, Daniel Swartz. However, the psychiatrist for the prosecution, Harold Zolan, maintained that although Defeo was a user of heroin and LSD, he had antisocial personality disorder and was aware of his actions at the time of the crime. So it didn't really get through. So the
fact that anybody supported it, though.
Well, I mean, the defense is going to find someone who will support it.
Right. They'll go around until someone does it.
Or maybe they pay him enough to claim they agree with it. Like, I don't know how that works.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the trial judge, Thomas Stark, declared that Defeo's crimes were the, quote, most heinous murders committed in Suffolk County since its founding, unquote.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking heinous.
Yeah, I mean, your whole family while they're fucking asleep, including the children, not okay. So on November 21st, 1975, Defeo was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder, which I call bullshit on. Second degree?
Yeah, how is that?
Yeah, what?
Second? What? No.
Yeah, I call bullshit. They must have reached a plea deal or something. And on December 4th of that year, the judge sentenced him to 6 sentences of 25 years to life. It doesn't specify if it's concurrent or consecutive, but he's never going to get out. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Over the decades, Defeo made numerous claims to support his innocence, the worst of them being that his sister had actually planned to kill their parents. And
What?
What?
And that his sister had murdered the children to eliminate witnesses, and that he had killed her in anger at what she had done.
Oh my God.
What the
fucking awful.
That insanity is seeming more and more likely.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine, like, I mean, she's dead. She can't even defend herself. It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
Defeo was held at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in the town of Fallsburg, New York, until his death on March 12th of 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, he lived a long time.
Yeah, that's a long fucking time.
He had basically exhausted all his appeals, and all of his requests for parole were denied. The house soon became known as the Amityville Horror House and was investigated by famed ghost hunters Ed and Lorraine Warren. You may recognize those names because there is a series of recent horror movies and spin-offs that involve their...
Those are the movies I was talking about!
The Conjuring, Annabelle, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I think it was The Conjuring. That's the one I was talking about earlier.
So as stated earlier, the Lutzes, who moved into the house after the murders, have been accused of fabricating their stories over the years in order to sell books and land a movie deal. And Ronald Defeo Jr. later claimed, basically his claims kind of backed that up. He was trying to use it to help overturn his own fucking conviction.
Interesting.
Which is crazy. According to a 1992 interview with Butch, he said he made up hearing voices on the advice of his lawyer to make the story sound more attractive for future books and movie contracts. So his own lawyer was encouraging him to go with the bullshit just to make money. And the last thing I'll say about this is in Amityville Horror 2, the daughter of the oldest daughter of the family was played by one actress who later, like about 2 or 3 years ago, when the movie was remade as like more modern, she would then play the mother of the story, Louise.
Oh, I
No
love it when they
way.
do shit like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was very clever. That was pretty cool. But beyond that, that is the case of the Amityville Horror actual murder.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. That's
Love
really
to hear
interesting.
the real story behind the fame.
Yeah, I mean, I just love that there was that true story behind it. Because when I first heard about Amityville Horror, it was just the movie. And even though they said it's based on true events, it's always hard to believe. But then when you hear this, you're like, holy fuck.
Right.
Anyway, so thank you everyone for joining us for our 100th episode. We love that you're
Wow.
here. I know, right?
It was a great episode for number 100.
And
Here's to the next 100.
exactly. And that it fell on Halloween, which is why we didn't do our normal multiple episode thing that we kind of started last year. I call it normal like we did it more than once, but you know.
Well, we started.
We did. And I was hoping to do something else, but once I saw 100 falling right at Halloween, I was like, no, we're not fucking with it. So,
No, we have to do it.
And these were 3 really, really good cases for the 100th and for this time of year.
exactly. I agree. All right. Thank you guys. And thank you everybody. Once again, I'm Janus Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.